Yeah. Sun is blazing today, man, I tell you. It's bright. Just got out of the gym. Word of advice to everybody out there, follow some sound advice that I never followed for the good first half plus of my life. Stay fit, stay in shape, physically, mentally, spiritually. It'll get you through tough times. It'll make things easier on you when times get tough. So yeah, just keep your health up. There's a lot of things that are killing people these days. A lot of toxins, certain injections, you know. Stay fit, stay active, or you just start dying, you just start atrophying, you just get weak. And we can't have this nation confronted with the greatest threat in our nation's history to our liberties. We can't have this nation filled with a bunch of chicken-necked, lily-livered, spineless, woke trendies, right? You gotta have some tough guys. You gotta have a few tough guys out there to fight the good fight. So the war is heating up, isn't it? Not just over there in the sandbox that is the Middle East, but here at home even within conservative circles. I don't know if all you heard the controversy between Ben Shapiro and Candace, Mrs. Owens. You know, I've called out Candace Owens in the past for her steadfast, unyielding support of the Tate brothers. You know, the two pimps, glorified masculine douchebags who, you know, make a living, make millions of dollars off of selling college courses, right? Hustlers Academy to young, desperate men who can't seem to find a woman in the real world, right? So they sell them on the promise that you too can be a big pimp like the Tate brothers someday, as long as you pay us, you know, blah, blah, blah. What is it now, like $1,000, $2,000 per course? So yeah, I've called out Candace in the past, but I was actually, you know, to give credit where credit's due, I was actually impressed with her recent stance by, you know, her kind of tongue-in-cheek endorsement of the neocon Nikki Haley, saying that she endorses her for president of Israel, that is.
Well, I am here today to endorse Nikki Haley for president of Israel. I think she's earned that. I think Bibi Netanyahu is going through a very bad time right now. Support for Israel has virtually collapsed socially. If you're paying attention to the trends and you're paying attention to what people are watching, you're paying attention to the protests. And the one person that I think is capable of getting it back is Nikki Haley, with enough money from foreign interest lobbies. So there it is, guys. I'm endorsing Nikki Haley, president of Israel.
And of course, you know, as expected, this drew a bunch of criticism from her boss, Zionist Ben Shapiro, masquerading as an American conservative thought leader, guru, right, of the right. And I mean, this guy, like I said, I put this out weeks ago, you know, for all these people on the right that are going to stand behind Israel at all costs, right? Flying in the face of any kind of better moral judgment, right? When we see it is Israel's policy, and we've had different experts like Scott Ritter, the former UN inspector, and that guy's a piece of work. He's got quite an interesting history. I'm still thinking I should put some kind of a podcast together on the guy because, man, he was calling out military-industrial complex decades ago, during the Bush administrations, during the Clinton administrations, and he drew quite a lot of criticism. In fact, there's a video of the guy getting kind of scolded by a fatherly figure at the time, creepy old grandpa Joe Biden.
I respectfully suggest they have a responsibility slightly above your pay grade. Slightly above your pay grade. That's a real tough decision. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they get the limos and you don't. wouldn't you acknowledge that if you were President of the United States or the Secretary of State, you'd sit there and say, now, okay, old Scotty boy didn't get in. We said he should get in. We want him to get in. It's important that he does get in. They're not going to let him in. So what are we going to do now? We know that France and Russia aren't going to be with us. We're quite confident China's not. We've already run those traps. They're not there. We're not sure where the United States Senate is, but have at it, boys. Go get them. And by the way, Scott and the boys say air power's not enough. Like I said, they get paid more than you. Their job's a hell of a lot more complicated than yours. They may have made the wrong decision, and you brought it to light. We should address it. We should say straight up where we are, and we should do it. And for that, I thank you. But it's above your pay grade.
But yeah, Scott Ritter was calling out the narrative of the weapons of mass destruction that led to the war in Iraq after 9/11. And long story short, you know, they framed him on certain allegations, internet allegations of being sexually explicit with a minor, even though it was a complete setup. And so the minor on the other end of the phone line or the internet line was actually a agent, right? And they did this twice to try to set the guy up. Anyway, I hope to do a show, like I said, about Scott Ritter maybe later, because he's been saying some pretty interesting things about Israel and the origins of Hamas, which I brought up earlier. Not just him, but the likes of Ron Paul brought this up before the Congress, how Hamas basically created Israel. And so when we see these little Zionist Muppets with their little beanies on their head, like Ben Shapiro, sorry, Freudian slip, I guess. Yeah, when we see them up there ridiculing people, trying to pigeonhole people as a leftist, like pro-Omar, right, for supporting the Palestinian people, trying to make us all like terrorist sympathizers, right?
It is us who are not acknowledging humanity. Rashida will stand strong.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
The movement will continue for liberation until every single
time has expired.
Has the right to
Gentleman
live
from
in
Maryland
liberty.
is recognized.
If you really think that Ilhan Omar cares about Palestinians living in liberty, then why exactly is she standing up for Hamas, which keeps them under the thumb of a terrorist tyranny? Hamas started this conflict by murdering 1,400 Jews, including babies, children, women, and men. They still have 240 people kept in bondage in Gaza as their hostages. They openly brag about hiding rockets and terrorists beneath civilian centers. So Hamas commits a terrorist atrocity, not caring about its own civilians, and then hides its own civilians in front of rockets. But when Israel inevitably has to kill civilians in the process of targeting terrorists, Hamas then sheds the falsest of tears. They put out tape showing people mourning their dead, caused by Hamas, and the world largely falls for it. That's because the oppressor-oppressed narrative is all-consuming. It is all-powerful.
You know, even though the majority of the protests, pro-Palestinian protests going on right now might, you know, originate from, you know, the political left, I would say there's also quite a few independents within those crowds. And I haven't seen one example. I mean, I guess I've heard of one, third person, right? Hearsay, of an actual group of people that were demonstrating pro-Hamas, right? But this whole argument that they try to pigeonhole people into, the left, right, black, white line of thinking, like Ben Shapiro is just a mastermind at, right? It kind of falls apart when you come to that realization that Hamas is just a creation of Israel, right? Another way to sow division in Gaza. Something that Israel never wanted was a Palestinian state. And so, of course, they're going to put at their figureheads of these poor, you know, probably largely ignorant civilian class in Gaza. Of course, they're going to put as their figureheads their political party, a terrorist organization that's going to just stir up trouble and convince the world, you know, that Gaza shouldn't deserve, that the Palestinian people shouldn't deserve their own state, or they need to be policed, right? And a police state, which is what Netanyahu recently proposed, that indefinitely Israeli soldiers would be walking the streets of Gaza after all of this bombardment, basically leveling the place to a parking lot.
President Biden has said that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza. Who should govern Gaza when this is over?
Those who don't want to continue the way of Hamas. It certainly is not. I think Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have the overall security responsibility because we've seen what happens when we don't have it.
And so you have the new Speaker of the House, I think his name is Mike Johnson, if I get that correct. You know, this guy just pops out of nowhere, right? Another one of these, nobody knew who he was, then all of a sudden, you know, the kingmakers, you know, behind the political curtain, just handpicked this guy, and all of a sudden now he's the new Speaker. Well, he was out there speaking in front of a crowd of, I don't know how to describe them other than warmongers. This pro-Israel march in D.C., I believe it was. And he made the statement that, you know, it was crazy talk, right? To talk about an Israeli ceasefire.
The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous.
And he just had the crowd chanting after his statement. No ceasefire, no ceasefire, no ceasefire. And I'm thinking, man, at that moment, I can almost get a sense of what it was like to be in the crowd when the Jewish people were chanting, Barabbas, Barabbas, give us Barabbas, the known murderer. Give us Barabbas over Jesus, our Messiah. And without getting too religious on anybody, yeah, I think the people will get exactly what they want. You know, they want war, they want killing, they want the blood of the innocents on their hands. They want to continue to fund these out-of-control genocidal maniacs who have captured the nation of Israel, for example, or Ukraine as another example. You know, I just love how it only takes a couple months before they can convince the right, the political right, Republicans on the right, to be all for another war. As long as it's our guys, right? As long as it's the nation of Israel, who we've all been indoctrinated with this poison belief system that somehow this corrupt, evil, largely secular, not at all godly, right? Murderous, genocidal maniacs, you know, as part of their policy, as Scott Ritter brought up, how they mow the grass of Palestinian people. You know, and another way to put it, they cull the herd, right? They got to keep them constantly down, bruised and bloody beneath their boot. That's how they keep these people under control. Enslaved in this open-air gulag, concentration camp. But yeah, on the right, Israel. Yes, the Bible talks about Israel, don't they? It must be one and the same thing, right? It's nothing at all related to the modern day nation of Israel. When God talks about Israel, he's talking about a spiritual seed, a people of belief, a people who have faith in the Messiah, who follow the example of Christ, who keep the commandments of God, who don't indiscriminately murder, who, as Jesus put it, you know, if my people were of this world, they would pick up swords and fight, right? They would pick up arms, they would pick up jet fighters and bombs, and they would fight. Christ's kingdom is not of this world. And Israel is a people, the church, the body of Christ. It's got nothing to do with the location on the map. It's got nothing to do with a piece of real estate. Israel is spiritual. And if you don't know that by now, as a Christian, you got to read a little bit more of the New Testament, is all I'm saying. Paul, in particular, Romans and Galatians, has some great verses on this very topic. It clarifies all of this confusion going on in the world today. And this insane foreign policy that convinces conservatives that would otherwise be for a domestic, you know, like non-interventionalist foreign policy, it completely blinds them. You know, it wraps that emblem of the Star of David, that Babylonian sun symbol, It blinds them. It wraps it around their eyes so that they cannot see, they cannot hear, they cannot think straight, because we must defend Israel at all costs. Well, I've got news for you, Ben. Keep want to call him Affleck. Ben Shapiro, you can't be America first while also defending Israel at all costs, right? You have to make a choice. Israel's interests are not our interests, right? And it is not in our interest to get involved in another never-ending war with who knows how many Arab nations in the Middle East, right? You know, I know that Axis of Evil speech by George W., a little Satanist himself, Skull and Bones member. I know he called out, was it Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Iran? Was that a large part of the axis of evil? Yeah, you have Netanyahu using the exact same terminology.
Our war against Hamas is a test for all of humanity. It is a struggle between the axis of evil of Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and the axis of freedom and progress. We are the people of the light. They are the people of darkness, and light shall triumph over darkness.
And inspiring this religious talk of this battle between the light and the dark. It's something out of Lord of the Rings, right? We're actually fighting orcs, and that's actually how these Israelis, which I guess I would liken to maybe the elves, right? The elitist elves in the movie or the book Lord of the Rings, H.R. Tolkien. Yeah, I guess I'd liken the Israelis to the elves, but they look at the Palestinians as if they're orcs. They're not even human. And in fact, this controversy came out where the Israeli soldiers, the IDF, were wearing t-shirts jokingly depicting a crosshairs on a pregnant woman, you know, dressed in Arab garb, with a caption in Israeli as well as English on the very bottom: "One shot, 2 kills." Right? Isn't that funny, guys? Isn't that hilarious? And this is the sick mindset that these people are trained in. You know, this is learned ideology, right? Just as racism is taught, so is this kind of genocidal, ethnic cleansing mindset with the Israeli elite. And you know, the comparison to the Nazis is a real thing, people. It's a real phenomenon. I mean, perhaps it's one of those things that you become that which you hate the most. You know, that which you focus the most attention on, the most anger towards. You know, you spend the most time fretting over. You know, this collective trauma of the Jewish people from the Nazi Holocaust. Maybe in some sense, they became that which they hate, right? But in any case, so yeah, you have the American people cheering on more genocide. Yes, more bombing of innocent civilians, more death and destruction, more killing of innocent children. You know, I don't want to hear from these people on the right who are pro-Israel at all cost, don't give a damn about the Palestinian people and the little children, which make up half the population over there. I don't want to hear anymore from these people on their little moral high horse about how evil, how satanic the left is. For, you know, as recently is the case, which is correct, you know, sometimes the only thing that'll motivate the left, it seems, to go to the voting box is to threaten to take away their rights to kill babies. And it's true. But you can't use that argument when you yourself, on the right, cheerlead and champion and chant from the crowd, "No ceasefire, no ceasefire." Keep bombing the hell out of this highly populated, densely populated country of Palestine, where we have, last I checked, and this was probably about a week ago, over 10,000 people dead. So that means that by now I wouldn't doubt, all in all, the grand tally will probably be twice that, right? Dead civilians, indiscriminately targeted, despite all the BS rhetoric. Remember the narrative that we were all supposed to parrot, this pro-Israel, this pro-Israel narrative that we are all supposed to parrot, that the bomb that hit the hospital was actually a failed Hamas missile. Well, now we have the Israeli government openly admitting that we've been attacking this hospital that ran out of gasoline for its generators, which it direly needs power to keep people alive, right? These life-sustaining equipments. And yes, I would say at this point, the story of the babies in incubators this time around is probably a real story, right? Unlike the story that led us into the war in Iraq. This time I think it has a little bit more credibility. When you have these hospitals that can't even anesthetize, they can't even numb the pain of the patients that they're seeing, largely kids, and the suffering that they're enduring from burns to the body, holes in their body, broken bones, and they don't even have the drugs to treat these people. So they just have to sit there suffering and dying as more and more life-giving medical supplies, even clean food and drinking water, are denied these people. And so if you can't see by now that judgment is coming on this nation, when you have, and I don't care how big of a demographic it is, with this political game of democracy, they have to create the optics that you still have a good section of the population that demand the agenda that they want to hoist on us all, right? The military-industrial complex needs useful idiots that cry out in anger and fear, either you're with us or you're with the terrorists. Bomb the hell out of them, right? You need those useful idiots to make it at least look like a populist movement and not just something that none of us want, right? But they're gonna shove on us anyway. So yeah, kudos to Candace Owens for calling out the neocon, Nikki Haley, psychopath, war profiteer that she is. Nikki, nice knowing you. Pack your bags. You and Ben Shapiro, I think you guys would fit in just right over there in Israel. And you'd have plenty of wars to cheer on, because it seems like every other year they're getting into another war with Palestinians over there. So you could just put on your little pom-poms, the both of you. Ben, you got to shave your face again, look like a little baby face like you used to look until you went with the tough guy, scruffy, conservative image like everybody else is apparently doing these days. Little baby Ben, the little spoiled brat, sits up there on his little podium, having a hissy fit over one of his employees, daring to question whether or not our political candidate should just have blind faith, 100% support of the nation of Israel.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. She still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
No matter what kind of atrocities, crimes against humanity they commit. Now bombing hospitals openly, shooting civilians as they try to escape in the streets. It made me laugh. Recently this piece, I think it was ABC or NBC, supposedly they went in with the the commandos or whatever they are from the IDF to find out, to investigate these claims. Because all they do is, the Israeli government, is they go around and they mark some circles around certain buildings on the map, and they claim, over here there's an underground bunker, over here there's a tunnel system. That's why we gotta bomb them, right? And so that's what they did with this hospital. I guess when the evidence came out that they could no longer deny that they were actively engaging warfare with this hospital full of civilians suffering, dying, injured. They just full-scale assault on this hospital. So eventually I guess they had to flip the narrative and they had to acknowledge to the world, yeah, we're actually there, but you know what, there's a command center buried beneath the hospital, right? The Hamas terrorist command center. Despite the fact that workers at the hospital denied any existence of such a facility beneath the hospital, you'd think they'd have some kind of inclination, right? So the reporters, with their cameras rolling, went in the basement of the hospital. And, you know, one of these propagandists working for the Israeli military, he showed them the evidence of Hamas and their underground command center down there beneath this hospital. And you know what it was? It was a chair with a little piece of wire on one arm. And this, the man explains, was where they kept one of the hostages, tortured them. And this is the prime example right here, this empty chair, of how Hamas uses people, civilians, as human shields, right?
You can see the tunnel. The tunnel is let down more than 20 meters down. The rowboat found a door over tunnel. It's part of the same floor and it slides down here. And this is the place where I showed you the tunnel. I want you to see. A woman, clothes, and a rope. A rope next to the legs. It's a baby bottle. It's a baby bottle in a basement, above a World Health Organization sign.
Like the Israelis never do that, right? They never use kids as Palestinian kids as human shields, like cowards that they are, right? So yeah, this was their evidence. There was no sign in that room of any kind of confrontation, any kind of firefight, any blood on the walls. No, it was an empty chair, and we're all to take this man's word for it, that this was actually a chair in which a hostage was being held. No bodies, no other evidence. Yeah, sure, bud, sure. And this is what we're all supposed to get behind, right, guys? So you see this infighting already within the conservative right wing of the party. And this is, I think, you know, in the big picture, I think this is probably all planned, right? They knew that the actions of Israel, as I put it earlier, you know, anybody that defends Israel at all costs is going to, you know, soon lose all credibility. If you want to continue to hold that position with all of the horror stories, with all of the blood and gore, maimed, injured, killed, piles of bodies of children. If you want to continue to defend that form of evil, blatant, unbridled evil, you're going to lose all credibility, right? You're going to lose all moral high ground. And perhaps Candace, you know, she had a little bit of a conscience. And as a conservative, we should all take her position. You know, America first doesn't mean Israel first, and you can't have it both ways. We are our own nation. You know, they try to convince us time and time again that it is our interest to defend Israel in the Middle East. You know what? Maybe it's not. If it turns into another Iraq and Afghanistan, a 20, 30-year war, when in this nation our infrastructure is falling apart, when we hear reports every day of train wrecks, just within our own state here in Colorado. I mean, it seems like every other week we're having another coal train tip over, or a train full of military equipment down there in Colorado Springs. Yeah, we can't even pay for our own infrastructure. And every time we got to fund one of these wars to the tune of, what did the GOP ask for? Another 14, 15 billion for Israel. That means the Fed has to keep printing money. And you know what that means? Big picture, folks, big picture thinking. All of our standard of living gets reduced. You know how you get rid of inflation? You know how you get rid of the prices going up on all of our food, on all of our luxuries, on our standard of living, on our rent, mortgages, car payments? You know how we get all that to go down? We stop printing trillions of dollars for needless wars in other countries that just make things worse. Like Ron Paul said recently, and he said the same thing after 9/11 and the debates. When Ron Paul, you know, the greatest president the country never had, He brought up the CIA idea of blowback. And he said again recently in one of his shows, yeah, he's still out there like a firebrand, still producing content, still standing for liberty, the Constitution, and the American way. He said there will be, in our own country, on our homeland, a result of the support of the nation of Israel and this genocidal campaign. There is going to be blowback on our own shores, within our own borders. There will be terrorist retaliation. And gee, how will that play into the plan? You know, when you have the Republicans back in office calling for law and order. Oh man, just enjoy your police state, guys. You people that want to defend your party with this blind faith, just as blind as these people that want to defend the state of Israel. Enjoy your police state. Enjoy your prison. Anyway, God bless everybody. I hope all that made sense. I'm going to cut it somewhat short this time. Appreciate everybody watching. I have been putting together some original podcasts, and I hope you all watch them because I do put some time into my editing process. And I hope you all enjoy what I have to say and the information that I put out there. And if you don't agree with me, then just tell me in the comments. You know, that's the worst thing you can do. And I don't take things too personally, like most people, I guess. You know, I'm firm enough in what I believe that I don't easily get rattled by criticism. So go for it. Have at it. Let me know how you truly feel about me. In any case, if you do like the show, just the least you can do is a thumbs up, share it. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit all notifications, otherwise you'll never see my future shows. And if it's within your budget, and I know it's getting harder and harder for everybody, these needless expenditures, right? If it's within your budget, you can buy me a coffee. I think it's like $4. Link in the description. Otherwise, don't worry about it. You know, just continue to enjoy my shows. Continue to watch my shows as much time as you can on my videos, because that helps the algorithms as well. If you don't just click off within the first minute of my ramble session here. You know, I'm trying to get better at cutting things short, and that's why I'm keeping this one under half an hour today. So, yeah. You're welcome. Anyway, God bless everybody. This is Nightwatch N8. Stay frosty. Stay safe. Get right with God. God bless. Nightwatch N8 signing out.
This is not America. Sha-la-la-la-la. Little piece of you.